In this video, in the coming videos, I will talk about research writing. And in this particular video, I will touch on the research proposal, particularly how to write the title and the research question. And in the subsequent videos, I will complete the subject of the research proposal, and then I will go into the research writing. The Second World War had destroyed Japan, and after the war, the Japanese Association of Scientists and Engineers invited Mr. William Edward Deming, an American scholar on total quality management, to advise them on how to make their factories and products competitive in the international market. Mr. William Edward Deming stayed there in Japan for quite a time, and he wrote in his book that the answer is massive training. I'm quoting this to emphasize the importance of massive training. And he wrote in his book, Out of the Crisis, let everyone to work, put everyone to work to accomplish the transformation. Transformation is everybody's job. And again, I will say, tolerance, perseverance, collaboration, and dedication will help us to navigate these challenges, the challenges of these days. And one of the important pillars for us to rebuild our country again is to have massive training for each and everybody in the country. The objective of this session is that by the end, the learner will be able to define the differences between scientific and research writing, and enumerate the key components of research proposal, and to define how to collect and synthesize authentic literature, and how to craft a compelling title and research question. Now let us delve into the differences between the scientific writing and the research writing. Let us look at this paragraph. Scientific writing. Scientific writing is writing in any topic, observing the correct writing of spelling, grammar, articles, prepositions and conjunctions, punctuations, sentences, paragraphs, and style should adhere to scholarly writing standards. That is to say, there should be no convoluted or vague sentences or expressions. If we look at the paragraph again, you will see after the site title we have used a colon, the two dots over each one over the other. And then we use commas to separate between items. Lots of items here: spelling, grammar, articles, prepositions and conjunctions, and punctuation. We put "and" before the last item. and we end the sentence with a dot. And the new sentence also, we have also commas to separate between items, sentences, paragraphs, and styles. So that here. And we use the semicolon between two related but separate clauses, that is sentences. Each sentence can stand by itself, but it could be better to join them, like this sentence. Adhere to scholarly writing standards, that is to say, there should be no convoluted, vague, or sentences or expressions. And we put a comma after IE, and that is to say, it is an introductory sentence by itself, that is to say. And now the research writing. The research writing is the precise, ethical, professional, objective, focused report writing in a specialized format, including the title, authors, names and affiliations, introduction, keywords, research question and hypothesis, objectives, methodology, results, discussion, conclusion, references, and appendices. You are all familiar with the titles of the research writing. However, the scientific writing is to write a language in a correct manner. Now, the proposal. What are the key components of the proposal? The key components of the proposal are the research title, introduction, literature review, problem statement, research question and hypothesis, methodology and ethical issues, research contribution, what the research will contribute to the medical literature, budget and timeline for the research steps, and references, and sometimes we include the questionnaire. Now let us speak about the literature review, and how we select the literature and how we synthesize the literature, and from where and how research and literature should be authentic, from where and how to get that authentic literature. For the literature, for guidelines, we can search for evidence-based medicine guidelines, the Cochrane Library, TRIB database, WHO, World Health Organization, Statistical Information System, particularly for epidemiological studies. And for the general research, we can use an open data system which is free for use for all, like the PubMed Central, Public Library of Science, Biomed Central, and Directory of Open Access Journals. Now, how to select the literature? Here, I have devised a Prisma flow diagram. It is written at the bottom line in red. For chest bullet injuries, these are our key words. Chest bullet injuries. No other injuries, not anywhere else in the body, only in the chest, and it is bullet injuries. Then we are going to search, and let us assume that we searched the PubMed, and let us suppose that we found 500 titles. We have to screen these titles, and we have to eliminate the titles which speak about cold cases, injuries of studies in cold case injuries, and studies in other injuries other than bullets. And let us suppose that we excluded 400 titles. Out of these, we found some other body injuries were excluded, about 300 titles. And let us say cold or chronic injuries also excluded, chronic wounds. And domestic injuries by other things other than bullets excluded, a total of 400. Will remain for us 100. And in this 100 chest injuries, we find explosions in 20. We are going to eliminate these chest injuries due to explosions. We are going to eliminate them. Remaining 80. And we found 50 articles on shrapnels. We do not want shrapnels. We want only bullet injuries to the chest. We exclude 500. We will remain with 30. Now we should define where did we find these 30 articles. We find these, let us suppose we find these articles in in 3 review articles, and in complete research articles, let us say 17 research articles, and in 9 abstracts, and in 1 case report. Like this, we have screened the whole literature, and we focused it on the area we needed, that is bullet injuries into the chest, no other parts of the body. That is the PRISMA flow chart. This is how to select the literature. Now how to review and synthesize the literature. Synthesize, after you select the articles, we need to synthesize them and to look for the answer for our question we are discussing. We are going to come to that question in a minute. If you have a research question in a round or in a clinical meeting and we found a comprehensive answer, no need to go further. But if the answer is vague, or there is gap in knowledge, or some areas need further research, this means there is gap in knowledge and we need to construct a research in this area of weaknesses in the literature. Then we have to develop a provisional research question. Again, with the synthesis, to understand the word synthesis, we go back to the Bloom cognitive taxonomy of learning. The Bloom cognitive taxonomy says that the very basic knowledge is the recall knowledge, the recall memory, recall knowledge. Just to recall it. Without understanding it, you know some words, you repeat these words, but you do not understand the meaning of it. And better than that, a quality which is better is to understand this knowledge, the amount of the words you are saying, the amount of the cognitive, of the recall knowledge, instead of just reproducing it, rehearsing it, one should understand it. And better than that, if one can apply it, can use it and apply it, application. And further, better skills if one can analyze that sort of information, that sort of knowledge, if one can conduct analysis which is worse, which is good, which is bad, which is so and so. And then further more skill is to synthesize. That is, after digesting all this information, you come up with a new information. You come up with the new music, with the new information. This is synthesis. And at the top, if you can then re-evaluate the whole process. Evaluation is the top skill for the knowledge. Now, how to synthesize again the literature? Early systematic gathering, as I said, by a PRISMA flowchart of authentic literature from authentic databases, not to go just and to search the internet. You might get some articles from predatory journals, from fake journals. And these are very dangerous for the researcher and for the researcher himself. It gives very bad reputation. So we collect systematically the literature, we read it, then we take notes on the literature we have chosen. The last literature we have chosen, we have to write notes about the methodologies. Articles with similar methodologies, we put them aside, we take note and put it aside. And those who with same outcomes or similar findings, we wrote a note about them. Those who have similar limitations, we write a note about them like this. Means now we have made a summary for the whole lot of things we have chosen. Then we write our literature review, and we seek an expert to review what we have written, and then we have to respect his views and to amend our writings. Should the literature review precede the formulation of the research title? Yes, that is correct. We have to do the literature from authentic databases, synthesize them, find research gaps, and then write a provisional question or provisional title for a research to be conducted. This amount of literature will be good because from this literature we will find the research gap, and it will guide us to craft the research question in a better shape, and to design a methodology and hypothesis and methodology for our research. And we use this amount of literature as a background for our study and as justification, particularly when we highlight the area of weaknesses in the literature or the gap in knowledge in the literature. It is very important. Now again and again, how and where to find a research topic. Lots of learners, they ask about, I want a title to start a research, my thesis, to start my thesis. They are looking for something. And they kept staggering, looking for a research. And we know from the contemporary education, the contemporary education encourages learners to empower their critical and innovative thinking and to search for help rather than spoon feeding. they should ask for help. They should go on discussing in the clinical rounds, in the clinical meetings, and find the appropriate questions where the answer is not complete or there is some weaknesses in the answer, and that is the area to search it to find out, to study a literature in a comprehensive way and to synthesize the literature and to come up with a new research question. Now, where to find a research topic? As I said, in the clinical meetings and in the clinical rounds, in patients' feedbacks when we discuss with patients, when we discuss with our colleagues their perception on their training, usually there are some questions that need some answers. And in retrospective hospital data, if we want to study the outcomes of our surgery, for example, or treatment of certain type of disease, is it comparable to what is written in the international literature? Is it better or less? Then we can go back to the files in the medical records, dig these files, collect the data, analyze the data, which is a retrospective study. Now, having reached this point, we have to craft a good title, a captivative title that captures the eyes, that captures the readers. The title should be specific, should be concise. It should reflect the scope and the methodology. It should reflect the aims and the methodology. It should be specific why you are doing this research. And it should include keywords. Keywords are important for indexing. When we publish the research, it will be easy to be indexed, and it will be easy to be searched and to be cited. So it is better to include some keywords in the title. And the title should be concise, should not be vague, and should not be long. And should be capturing for those who are interested in the field of the research, and should be relevant to the practice itself. We will continue with the title and how to highlight the originality and novelty. The title should focus on a specific gap, and these gaps should be well defined and written in the abstract. It's very important to write the gap in knowledge. This is a good excuse why you are, this is a good reason why you are doing the research. You should define the gap in knowledge and in the abstract. And it should highlight, we should highlight also the novel methodology. You find a lot of titles in which at the end of the title written prospective study, retrospective study, cross-sectional study, descriptive study, randomized controlled trial, like this. It shows the methodology also, the title. And the abstract also should clearly state in the gap, as I said, in knowledge. All these things will highlight the originality of the research and will make the research prominent for searching. Now we have to design a research question, and we should know first the characteristics of the research question, and in the coming video I will elaborate on the research question. The research question should be again also concise and focused on the problem. And it should be concise, and it should help to craft smart objectives. And I will speak about the smart objectives in a minute. It should provide a comprehensive idea about the research, as if we are summarizing the whole research only in the title or in the research question, why we are doing this research. And it should contribute to the originality and novelty of the research. It should add to the literature. The objectives, usually there should be a main objective, and there could be other secondary objectives driven from the main objective. But all of them, main and secondary objectives, should be, each one should be SMART. SMART is an eponym. S stands for specific, M for measurable, A for attainable or achievable, R for relevant or reliable, and T with a time limit to complete that study. The research question needs crafting, not just to write any question just like that. It needs crafting. And there is an eponym here, FINER. We can follow the FINER, which is an eponym that stands for, the F stands for feasible. The research question should be on a subject which is feasible to be done. It should be attainable. It can be achievable. And the I stands for interesting. It should be interesting. It is captive. It is capturing the reader. It should be exciting for the readers in the field. And it should be novel. It is scholarly, written in a scientific way, and it follows the ethical standards, complying with all rules and regulations of research, and should be relevant to the area of practice, and also should be reproducible if the same study is done under the same standards. Now let us take an example for a research question for interventional study. This title follows another eponym, which is PICO or PICOT. P stands for patient, I for intervention, C for control group, O for outcomes, and T for the time limit. And let us take an example like this title says, in patients undergoing emergency cholecystectomy, does laparoscopic cholecystectomy compared to open cholecystectomy result in higher rate of biliary injury? Comparative study of outcomes. You see, the methodology here came as comparative colon, then comparative study of outcomes. Now, coming to the end of this session, the take-home message is, during your readings, keep observing the style of scholarly writing in published authentic research, where they put a comma, colon, semicolon, hyphen, this and that. You should look for this. And remember the key components of a research proposal, practice a systematic extraction of literature and synthesis, and craft an attractive title and research question. Up to this point, I come to the end, and I will see you in the next video.